You're not always going to like everything about your partner, ever. But that's not the point. You're not supposed to like everything about your partner. Who told you that you should never have conflict? You should love everything about your perfect partner, your soulmate, all these expressions, all these things. I'm like, the hell are you talking about? The relationship is an amazingly beautiful, frustrating mirror we have 24 hours in front of us. A man has a masculine core and also has feminine attributes that he can harness, and he just has in himself. And we see this in Eastern cultures across space and time. Shakti and Shiva, yin and yang, you can call it whatever you want, is the same concept, balance of the two, but they're not equal. To create a full, thriving, loving relationship that operates in this way, it's rare. And the maturity is in a variety of things. One is
Welcome back to the Spirit Unfolding podcast, where we explore the depth of the human experience, the creative energy that runs through us all, and what we can do to live a more fulfilling and authentic life to eventually contribute to a more beautiful world. Today, I'm very excited to sit down with Nemanja Sonero, who is leading and helping men and couples to really reclaim connection and a better way of relating, an authentic way of relating, to bridge between polarity, masculine and femininity within themselves and within relationships, and much more. He has, I think, about 25 years of experience, guided tens of thousands of people, and I'm honored to sit down with you today. So thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you for inviting. It's a pleasure to be here in this really nice studio.
Yeah.
Thank you for the invite.
One of the things that touched me a lot, what you shared a while ago, was you shared the story of the tragic dance between Mr. Nice Guy and the strong, independent woman. And it touched me because I've been that nice guy in the past. And I think so many people in our society today recognize parts of one of these archetypes within themselves. So I feel like that's a really good place to start. I would love to explore with you, what is that tragic dance exactly, and how the hell do we get out of it?
Oh, straight to the center. Well, it's an interesting topic also for many, but also for myself, because I've been in that position to start with, where I will explain a little bit what it means, nice. I prefer to use the word kind over nice. Nice in this context comes from actually a book written long ago, No More Mr. Nice Guy.
By Robert Glover?
Yeah. And he explains the phenomenon, what we see in the society in the last few decades, where men are basically disconnected from their power in a variety of ways, in relationships, in business, and there's a reason why. And it has, now we can see evidently, through also research and experience, that it leaves an impact on relationships, private life, personal, mental, and emotional health on men. So that's what I say, a nice guy, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it has a result which eventually will become destructive for himself and for others.
It's nice at a cost.
It comes at a cost, definitely comes at a cost. And we can see nowadays this in relationships, and we see the result of failed relationships, failed marriages, which the percentage is skyrocketing over the last few decades. And this is part of the reason. And so it's wonderful to be a kind man, a loving man. All of these attributes are wonderful, but a nice means often disconnected from our strength, from our yeses and our no. We basically are there to serve others at a price of our own self and our own authenticity, our own knowing why are we in this world. So we often do for others to get often something, which is one of the aspects of Mr. Nice Guy. He does something to get something. Okay, so, or he often avoids conflict, because he's afraid if he goes into a conflict, he might lose the partner or whatever the situation is. So these are one of the unfortunate aspects of being nice or overly nice. So I'm just clarifying this so people don't think like, oh, isn't it okay to be nice? Yeah, sure, you should be kind, loving, and everything. But again, this is a bit more deeper explanation. Why is it not useful for the man and everyone around him?
Yeah. So it's in a sense not showing certain parts of yourself out of fear that something bad will happen is part of what's in there, I suppose. You're pleasing because you're not. So which means, as a man, then you would like the nice guy, in that, as we use it as an archetype, you would be pleasing because you feel like, yeah, that's what's needed to keep her happy, for example. Or it's like, if I bring in my true desire or need or whatever it is, then perhaps I get rejected, or I'm not loved or accepted, or a version of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So he's afraid of the outcome for him being who he is and speaking his truth. So often Mr. Nice Guys avoid conflict. This we see a lot in relationships, and eventually that collection of issues, and we call it like brick by brick. Each brick represents something you've been avoiding to say, something you've been avoiding to do, and eventually builds a wall. And it's very hard to dismantle that wall once it becomes exactly that. So that's what I mean by it comes for a price. And same for the strong, independent woman. And I can go a little bit into it, and then we can connect it all, which is, there is going a little bit back into the history where it all started, mainly, let's say 60s, 50s, after the Industrial Revolution and a certain revolution which happened amongst women to have certain rights, for example, to vote and so on, which in the Western world was, not common. When the women started to fight for their rights, it was a beautiful moment for them and for everyone, all of us. And at the same time, now we see the outcome of how far it took them and the society, and what is the result of that. So the strong, independent woman archetype means she believes she doesn't need anyone. She can do it all alone. She hardens her body, her heart, her mind to protect herself more often than not from or certain experiences or the social also history that we have between men and women. And often they speak about the toxic masculine, which I'm not a big fan of that word, but so women had to fight for certain rights, but at the same time it came also with a price.
Yeah.
So she closed herself, and he started to become the nice guy who started to chase. So it was a flip of polarity happening too, and at the same time a mental, social, emotional shift that was quite massive. The woman went to the other side of the spectrum to explore her strength, her power. Wonderful. The man went more to the other side of the spectrum to explore their emotional body, expression, art, more the feminine, maybe to simplify it, and woman more into the masculine. And the problem with that is when we go to that spectrum, to the other extreme, which is sometimes necessary, it's very important to also come back, but not again to the other extreme, but somewhere where we can all still have a meeting point. And unfortunately, we haven't found that yet. We are still in a struggle where people are trying to find, who am I? How does this work now? Beyond the classical way, historically, how we related. And we see this struggle where, women often say nowadays, not of course, certain women, like, we don't need men, I can do everything without a man. And technically, the fundamentals we had before, she can. She can financially sustain herself. She can be safe in society, in the environment. She can procreate, have babies without a man. She can go to the sperm bank also too. So a lot of women choose nowadays to do that. And this again has an impact on us all. So it's quite complex why this is happening as a result nowadays, why relationships, marriages are failing. And this is actually one big reason why.
Yeah. And so you already explained a little bit like what's happening when like in a sense they are both out of center.
Yeah.
And when they meet and they, like, let's say in a relationship or in something that maybe it will become a relationship at some point, something happens in the dynamics between them that you would say isn't healthy, or it's like doesn't serve them really. At first it seems like, he feels very safe because he's like catering a lot to her needs and adapting. And she feels very strong and very like, oh, she can take the lead here. But actually she's very inner masculine. He's very inner feminine, is feminine, which aren't bad qualities and we all have them. But it's about, is that actually the main quality that is needed of you to sustain the relationship on a depth and on a long term?
Yeah, exactly. And also how to keep the polarity going, how to grow as a couple, it is, from my perspective, also how I navigated throughout the years, and some things change in me in around how I perceive this. And who knows, it might change again. But at the moment, my perspective is a man has a masculine core and also has feminine attributes that he can harness, and he just has in himself. And we see this in Eastern cultures across space and time. Shakti and Shiva, yin and yang, you can call it whatever you want, is the same concept, balance of the two, but they're not equal. So it means most men have a masculine core. And then we have also a task how to work on our feminine attributes and to really integrate that too. And same for a woman. She has a feminine core, she has masculine attributes. But what happened with this switch, we kind of flip those polarities within ourselves, and therefore they flip in the relationship. And that seems like a good idea for a while, but eventually I haven't seen a couple that can sustain that, and that is a healthy expression. It breaks eventually. So masculinity and both femininity have a healthy version, and they also have a shadow. So what often happens is nowadays men embody more the feminine, and automatically because of that, it's not their natural core, they enter the shadow of the feminine. And same for women, they enter the shadow aspects of the masculine. So we see this a lot in our society, and that's why a lot of women nowadays are burning out in business, in their health, in their relationship, because they're not naturally also built to be in that energy for so long, extensively.
Yeah.
So this is where we're at the moment.
Yeah. And what's your experience, and how do we get out of that?
That's a good question, and it starts, of course, from ourselves. It's an inner beginning work, and I can tell you from my own experience. I grew up mostly with my mother, so my father was absent. There was a divorce in our family between them, so I grew up a lot with my mom as my, I would say, primary caretaker. So she had to embody a lot more of the masculine just to hold our household in order, because there was me and my brother. And also in Serbia in the 90s, we had 2 wars in the 90s. We had embargo, hyperinflation, there was no money, no food. So she had to take the role of the mother and the father, which eventually burned her out. And like made also her body, unfortunately, a lot of illness and problems. And because of that, I was basically surrounded by a lot of feminine energy also, but also, unfortunately, which I'm trying to explain now, when, for example, a woman embodies a lot of this energy, she often enters the shadow of masculine and feminine, more often than not.
And what does that look like then?
Well, for example, the shadow of the feminine can look like overprotective. It can come out as over-controlling and manipulative, and so on and so on. So that's, for example, for the feminine, and many more. For the masculine, it has its own quality, but let's say for women who embody a lot of this energy, we can see a lot this nowadays, And the stats are here where the majority of men, for example, that are the majority of people in jail today are men.
Mm-hmm.
And the very, very high percentage of, forgot exactly what, these men come from a single mother family holds without the father. Okay, so this is not an accident. So of course the lack of the father, it's a huge element.
Yeah.
But also these mothers, and again, there are stats that show this. Often these mothers are highly or manipulative or narcissistic, or they affect the male child highly in that way. So a lot of problems come because of that.
And I suppose that these mothers are that way because of how they were raised, right? It's often like it comes from someplace.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure everyone understands it's not black and white. It's not like it's because of this and that, but these are huge elements that often we are still not talking about this, because in our society we're still over-focused, I would say, on what men did wrong historically, which is fine. We need to address that too, the shadow of that aspects. But there is a huge shadow of the mother, and in psychology we call it the devouring mother. So it's a mother that literally, one of the elements, it's an energetical mental castration of boys. So often boys feel they come from this type of homes, me included, feel very weak, unclear, nice guys. They become more often than not nice guys. And they often want to please the mother, the original mother. They want to please the woman, the mother, at start, and then later in relationships, their own partners. Over please, over care, afraid to say no. So there's a lot of projection of the mother to their partner.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. It's quite complex, and individual to individual, they all have their own unique story, but the common denominators are there. The data is very clear. So.
And then, so how do we break that pattern? It's like, if I go back into when I first recognized these patterns within myself, like I would say maybe a decade or so ago, first it's very confronting in a sense where it's almost like you kind of want to shut it off in a sense. I mean, like, oh, am I really like that? Like, and then it's like, as soon as you make the decision to start working on it, it doesn't mean that it's solved in a sense, if you can call it that, the next week or the next year. And there's so many layers to it. And I think it's also like about like, first of all, just recognizing where you are and then challenging yourself to not only figure out why this is happening, but especially like, what can I now do to move more into, let's say, this healthy, more integrated version of this masculine energy and of myself. So I'm curious what your take on that is.
Well, there's different approaches depending again on the situation where the man is. So it depends on his history. So when I work with men, we start to unpack a little bit, reverse engineer, how did he get to that position? Because for most men, it all starts in childhood. Like for most of us, we have our own childhood versions of that. And often it strengthens something also often happens also later on, teenager in his 20s. So often this is reinforced and amplified. And the wound often is recreated in relationships, because the original wound is created in a relationship, the primary relationship with our parent. So often, besides the individual work, it heals often in a relationship with someone else. So a healthy partner, meeting a partner who's ready to do their also inner work and kind of rewire each other's nervous systems in the process is one of the key elements. So I would start with the self, which means, again, not for everyone, but often we do a lot of inner child work to unpack a little bit of history, how things started, where the child have not received certain elements which were needed in that moment. So that is often the pattern that we look at, unpack, address, And there's different, of course, styles and process we can do it. But again, it goes back to the same, what can we give to our own inner child? Because we all have our inner child still, even to the day we die, where we can be 90 years old, we still have that inner little boy or girl always present. So from a psychological perspective, it's always there. So how do we address that? How do we do our best to heal certain aspects of ourselves which have never been touched, addressed, spoken to, and often the children or did not receive something, or they received a bit too much. So these are the parts that we start to address, and then we slowly unpack and see where we're at now, create new patterns. And like you mentioned, you cannot change something you're not even aware that you have. So we start to first spotlight what is actually here the main core wound, spotlight that, and start step by step to, I'm a bit hesitant to use the word heal, but like just to heal and shift the pattern. So recognize the pattern, address the pattern, change it. And it usually happens bit by bit, step by step. So it's not an overnight thing. So I would say this is one of the, if I explain more technically, but really give to that inner little boy or girl the love maybe they never received, or a certain aspect of safety they never received. And now as an adult, start implementing this practice in this, embodying and learning how to transmit all these things. So beyond the theory, because a lot of people often get stuck a little bit in the theory, but the body does not still transmit that truth.
Yeah. And we really only change our lives in the doing, not in the thinking about it, I would say, for most of it, right? So I attended one of your workshops a while ago with my girlfriend, and you put a lot of emphasis on, this workshop was centered around using the body and awareness of the body and energy between each other to highlight what is going on the deeper layers. Yeah. And I found it so powerful, because you can tell yourself you're a strong leader, but the moment, like one of the things that we were doing was like, okay, you are closing your eyes, and then you're leading with the body or with touch, or you're like, and it's very subtle. You're not actually pushing someone, but it's more like, how steadfast is your direction? How centered are you within your body? Is it clear that you are going to make a step, or are you doubting? Stuff like this, where it's like, if you're doing it in movement, you are doing it in all the other parts of your life, very likely as well. And I really enjoyed that, to sort of experience all those sort of supple layers there. And I'm curious, like, whether, obviously, when we're in a relationship and we have someone to sort of practice these things with, that's great. When we're alone, how can we then use the awareness of the body to also, find out where we can sort of unravel these patterns?
Yeah, for me, body and movement is truth. You cannot hide the truth. I can see very clearly how when people move, how they respond to each other. It's very clear what is going on. So people can, make it a theory, like, I'm a leader, I'm this, I can do this, but the body does not lie. You can see it, you can feel it, literally. And whether you are a man and exploring leadership in that moment, and you're with a woman exploring how to follow. So now I'm using a bit of terminology of using dancing, couple dances. And couple dances are wonderful tools to also explore these dynamics. Because if I'm going to lead you, I need to be very clear within myself and to know myself and to lead myself before I can actually lead her. And she will feel it consciously and unconsciously. Does she needs to move that way or this way? Does she needs to slow down, speed up? She responds to you very, very clearly, depending on how you respond to yourself, and how do you lead in the moment. So these are little practices anyone can start to use and practice and embody. That's what I mean by when I say embodiment. For me, it's one of the three main pillars, embodiment, in my work. Because again, can you transmit through your touch clarity? Can you transmit through your eyes tenderness, love, care? Can you transmit through your breath calm, stillness? So these are all things you can practice. But we do not learn this in the family, so far at least, in the previous generations. We do not learn this in schools, in society, so we kind of enter the relationship and
get triggered a bunch, maybe.
Well, get hyper, triggered by everything, because you're like, yeah, I watched the Disney movies, it's now everything, I found my perfect partner, life should be perfect now. And then you realize, oh shit.
Yeah.
I'm in a pickle. It's gonna be a problem if I don't change certain elements. So instead of believing that everything is just gonna be fine, we realize actually now the work starts. So sure, we have our inner work, we can do this before relating, but the relationship is an amazingly beautiful, frustrating mirror we have 24 hours in front of us.
Yeah. I love that you touched on the sensitivity of the feminine, because it's something that I've learned to love, because it's also in the beginning when you're like, you get all these mirrors. When you have a partner that is lovingly reflecting these back, it can be very confronting. But as soon as you learn to accept them and love them, these mirrors and everything that gets reflected back to you, it's a beautiful way to learn more about yourself and sink deeper into, just becoming more you in a sense, like just to let go of the ways that you've learned how to do instead of what you really are. I love one of the things I read that you shared a while ago was polarity is not something you manufacture. It is what you are when you stop hiding.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. And I think, I would love for you to expand a bit on that. And also so this points towards the polarity within us. But then of course, like you explained before as well, like when the polarity within ourselves is balanced, then we can also move into a relationship from a healthy space. So curious why you say that, like this is what you are.
Well, again, I go back to what are we transmitting? And I want to name, we are all constantly 24 hours transmitting something through our body. Even now, as I speak to you, what are we transmitting? Are we present? Are we breathing shallow? Are we breathing deep? Are we speeding up our words? Are we slowing down? So these are all constant transmission of something. So once we realize whether we go to the store, whether we talk to our girlfriend or boyfriend or partner, whatever we do, we are constantly transmitting something. So for me, just that realization means like, okay, that means I have a responsibility. What am I transmitting? And what am I transmitting is what I'm practicing. And what am I practicing is what I'm aware of that I'm doing. So what am I consciously practicing? So again, just breath. Even speech now as I'm doing, am I making dots? Am I stopping sometimes?
Yeah.
Am I just like talking, which is a mirror of my inner state. So again, it's good when we realize we're constantly transmitting to pause and say, okay, what do I want to transmit into this world? How do I want to be with people around me? And especially with kids. I have a 15-month-old girl in my house. I'm constantly transmitting something and she's responding to that very clearly.
Wow.
So when Nicole, my partner, and I have a little bit of tension between us, Shade, our daughter, is very clearly mirroring by her sounds, behavior. Is she anxious or not, sad or happy? She literally mirrors what we're doing, and it's a bit of a shocker when you actually experience that. You get like, oh shit! It means whatever I do is going to impact her. Whatever I do impacts my partner and the world eventually.
It's a very big responsibility.
It's huge. It's scary, but it's huge. And I do feel it's also a relief to know that I can actually do better and I can actually give to my daughter something more than maybe I received as a child, because I as a child did not receive safety enough. Of course, I don't want to negate my parents or something. I received so many beautiful things from them, but at the same time, what I'm seeing now with my daughter, my nervous system being calm and my partner's and ours creates safety in my child, that she feels safe, that when we go for a walk, she just goes. She doesn't even turn back. It's a bit funny, but still, she just goes. She feels we put her to bed, she just sleeps.
Oh.
She's super calm. Anyone who meets her say, wow, this child is it's not just behavior, you just feel it. She's like, calm. So we are giving her something perhaps we have not received as children, which is a healthy, regulated nervous system, which is the new language of I'm healthy, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually.
Yeah, that's maybe a better goal to aspire to than a fat bank account or a fancy car or whatever it is. It shows, in a sense, more depth, I think.
Yeah, I mean...
Not to negate those other things, because everything has worth, obviously, but like...
Yeah, I mean, we all desire different things, but I do want to say, for me, my new wealth of my life is knowing deep down in myself, not in theory, not in my mind only, but truly in my body, especially my nervous system, and eventually it means my soul and my spirit, to know that all is well. To deep down in myself, and I can drop into that space at any moment and I know all is well. My account can go to zero. I'm not freaking out. I'm not pushing or pulling. I can, and literally deep down in myself know all is well. I'm held, I'm loved. Life, God, whatever you believe in, supports me. All is well. And if I could transmit one thing true in my life, I would love to transmit this, which is all is well.
A trust in life. Yeah. I love that, man. Earlier, when we talked about relationships and them being a mirror, I was thinking about in a sense, the pain that you get confronted with in these mirrors. What you do with that is like a conscious choice. You can either turn away or use it as a portal, in a sense, to become something new. And when you can apply that lens, there is a lot of space that you create for yourself, in a sense. It's like, I'm no longer choosing to be the victim of a situation or of life, but I'm actively choosing to examine my pain and see how I can transform it into, something more beautiful. And also to see that the pain, in a sense, has a place. It's not something to run away from. It's something that's there to show me where I can still heal, let go. I don't know, I feel like that's one of the things that's so important when we're in this whole process of personal growth, spiritual growth, whatever you want to call it. It's don't get me wrong, I'm not holy or anything. I have all these moments where I want to run away from the pain still. But to apply that lens, in a sense, to see it as something that can help you open up more. I love that. Like I feel like it gives me so much space and freedom. I'm also like curious for you when you explained like you've experienced wars as a kid, or I don't know how old you were at the time.
The first one, I think I was 8. The second one, I was 16, I think.
How have those moments like impacted your your sense of what it means to be a man? And you mentioned like your dad wasn't present, so like did you feel like what direction did that push you in a sense? Like what happened in that moment?
Well, I'll just go first to the place of when you mention pain, which is very interesting. There is a history throughout the world in variety of civilizations where pain was part of the initiation into, to begin with, manhood. So how does a boy meet challenge, pain, whatever uncomfortable situation that is? And there's different traditions how they do it, but it's the same principle, which is how do we respond to a challenging situation? And that was part of the initiation, which is kind of logical also, because we all know once we become adult, we're going to be surrounded by millions of situations that are going to require us to respond to them. So it's not about avoiding pain, but today, unfortunately, how, again, this is also very interesting, how our society is constructed. There's a lot of avoidance of pain because everything is becoming very convenient and easy. If you look at historically how it was.
Definitely, yeah.
You know, you don't have to begin with, you don't have to hunt for an animal, you just go to the store and buy a pack of meat. Just the basics. So it means we don't have to hunt for food, grow food. Just my parents, I grew up a lot in the countryside. I was helping my parents and my grandparents plant food. I don't know in English how to say it, it was a huge piece of land. We had to use a tractor, all these things just to dig it out to make the soil ready for planting the seeds.
Yeah.
And I worked a lot with the chickens, the cows, this and that. So there was a lot of early on physical challenge, mental also, of course, to do all these things. So even their generations already had to work for food. Otherwise, there's no food.
It's not like back to the hunter-gatherers. It's actually quite early.
Yeah, we don't have to go thousands of years. Like it's yesterday.
Yeah.
It's like, so now when I see, and I used to work also with young men, and I see that there's a lot of conveniency, and we created a society where it's easy to do certain things, which is a beautiful bonus, but at the same time it's creating men and women who just have it very easy comparing to how previous generations had. That doesn't mean we have to go back in time and to do as we used to do, but it means there has to be a certain process of understanding how to deal with inconvenience, outer and especially inner inconvenience. And we see nowadays men, again, we spoke about relationships, marriage, and divorce is skyrocketing, but when we go look back and start to reverse engineer the whole process, you see young men and women who cannot deal with pain, with challenges, with rejections, and we see a lot of men are struggling with nowadays, and women with the depressions, because they just cannot handle challenging emotions to begin with. And this is a problem. Long term, it's a huge problem. So there has to be a certain balance of society creating convenience or technology rising to create easier life, with combination of not making it easy for people. Mm-hmm. For hundreds of thousands of years, we never had it easy. And suddenly everything is like, chill, back, relax.
You need friction to build personality, to build strength, all these things.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. And in the polarity language, we say the masculine grows through challenge and the feminine grows through praise. So there has to be a balance of both. challenge to help us grow, praise to see where we were and where we at now, and then the two combination of two help us really become the humans we want to be. But too much convenience, I personally don't like it at all. I like a challenge. This is how I grew up. When you speak about the war, of course, that's not maybe the greatest example. I don't wish a war for anyone. But again, just creating consciously a challenging space for a child, a safe space where it can explore dangerous things.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge difference between, making it all easy for them.
Yeah.
And then when the challenge comes, they don't know what to do. They fail, they fall.
Yeah, and also maybe because then when we haven't learned to, let's say, when we are not comfortable with being uncomfortable in a sense, when we haven't learned to be in those tough situations, needing patience, having to work for things, then when those moments, arise, which they eventually will, I believe, is it then that we are more easily, let's say, reacting to those moments from an unhealthy, unintegrated energy, where it's you say you don't want the toxic masculinity, but maybe let's call it an integrated masculinity or something like that, or how would you how would you say, because I feel when you've learned to deal with adversity, you are learning to get to know yourself better, and you are actually capable of then stepping up and, for example, into a position of leadership, or going through the pain to know, because that's what's needed. And when you're haven't experienced that, then perhaps you will push the blame to someone else, or run away, or react and hurt someone, or whatever it is. So how, sort of coming back to what does that then mean for relationships when we are, let's say, we know it's important to put this more into society, this maybe even this ritual of pain, or of becoming an adult and learning to deal with adversity more. How would that look for relationships if we would integrate that?
Well, to begin with, we would not. I'm just gonna add maybe exaggerate a little bit, which is we would not break up immediately with our partner when things are not as we wanted them to be. But we see it. I also see it a lot nowadays. A lot of people move from one partner to the other very quickly. So there's a lack of repair. I think that's the main word. Let's say there's a rupture, a conflict in a relationship, a problem. There is a procedure how we can enter the conflict, how we can address the conflict, and then repair. There's a lack of repair, what I'm seeing nowadays. And after repair comes, again, reconnection. And rebuilding from that reconnection into something beautiful. But I notice the moment something breaks, people kind of very quickly eject, close, gaslight, attack, defend, close. Mm-hmm. There's a very small tolerance to what we don't like. And you're not always going to like everything about your partner. That's not going to happen. And ever. But that's not the point. You're not supposed to like everything about your partner. I'm even asking to the people, who told you that? Who told you that you should never have conflict? You should, your partner should, again, maybe that's a Disney fantasy, but you should love everything about your perfect partner, your soulmate, all these expressions like twin flame and all these things. I'm the hell are you talking about? There's no perfect anyone. I'm not perfect. I'm flawed. I'm full of flaws, or things that are just I'm still working on them. But I understand I have them. I understand my partner has them, and we consciously chose to be together, which means we're taking responsibility for when there's a conflict to address that, to own our shit, and to apologize to begin with. Yeah, and to reflect each other, to support each other, because we entered with baggage and we're going to continue having that baggage. So how we can, again, repair is very important. A lot of people nowadays don't have there's no structure around how they argue, how they address conflict. There's no structure. You're just like, okay, let's figure it out. And of course, it breaks again and again and again. Of course, when the rupture becomes bigger and bigger, it's very hard to come back.
So what will be a way to give structure to those kind of moments then?
Well, there's a few systems. There's beautiful ones like imago dialogue. There's authentic relating. So there's more known ones out there. But it revolves around the same thing, which is, for example, with Nicole, I'll start with my partner instead of going to how I coach others, which is we have a few very, very clear agreements. No blaming, no shaming, no gaslighting, none of these things when one gets triggered. So if one starts to do that, curse also, any of these things, the other one has the right to call a pause or to say, yeah, I'm not okay how you talk to me. So there's certain structures we have when the trigger happens, because when you're triggered, you're not very aware of what you're doing. So you enter the reaction versus response. Instead of responding, you're reacting. So you're on autopilot.
Yeah.
Your nervous system is saying, boom, tiger is in the room, tiger is in the room. That's your nervous system. It's not logical. In the brain, a lot is happening, which makes that like your priority. You're going to defend, you're going to attack, you're going to retreat, you're going to become anxious. There's all these styles, different styles, how you're going to respond. So we go back to how conscious we are in the moment, which will help us with practice and time. How do we actually respond to the moment? So ideally, I would be like, love, I notice I'm triggered. I notice my nervous system is in a triggered state. I feel my breath is shallow. I feel I'm shaking. I feel I want to say things I'm going to probably regret. So I just want to take a pause for the next, and you name, ideally not more than 20, 30 minutes. I need to take a little walk, or I need to go punch pillows. I need to do something outside of the space so I don't vomit and project it all on you.
Yeah.
And I'll be back in 20 minutes. And it's very important to name when I'm going to be back. So the other one person knows and they don't feel abandoned or like, shit, when is he coming back, or her. So we have these kind of structures which we don't do perfectly. We don't.
Of course, no one does, right? Yeah.
No, but we are improving each time we do it.
Yeah, I love that.
And it's a practice. So conflict is also a practice, and each partner will have conflicts. It's inevitable. And like you mentioned, they are there as a mirror to see, like, where am I still holding on to certain elements, where I'm still playing out some childhood, parent, son, whatever bullshit that I carried. What story am I still repeating and looping in my own relationship that has nothing to do with this relationship?
Yeah. It's all happening within yourself. It's just the other person is like helping you see that. That's kind of like what
ideally,
it is, right? Yeah.
Ideally, but of course, there's also situations where the other person is simply being an asshole towards you. So that's also where we have to learn to set boundaries.
Yeah.
Where boundaries means, if you keep on doing this, this will happen. If you keep on insulting me, and we agreed you cannot do that, you cannot judge, blame, I will leave the room. If you keep on doing it, I'm going to leave the house and come back when you are ready to talk normally to me. So boundaries have to be set clearly, if necessary, of course. Boundaries are a loving, supportive way to communicate with your partner, which sometimes is very necessary. And Mr. Nice Guys are not good at setting boundaries.
Example. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Like looking back on previous relationships, like especially from when I was younger, at some point I realized like I was like slowly losing tiny parts of myself over the course of a year or multiple years, and then at some point I became almost resentful to my partner that I wasn't quote unquote allowed to be the person that I truly was, even though I fully did this myself, but at the time didn't realize. I'm curious, like, because I know this is sort of like a knife's edge in a sense. Like it's an interesting balance to like, yes, be fully yourself, but also adjust to your partner every now and then or all the time. There's like this dance. And then there's this other part of like wanting your partner to grow, but not pushing them or rejecting what they are right now. These two sort of fields where it's quite easy to go a little bit too much in one of the other direction. How do you navigate those spaces?
Well, I'll touch upon quickly as I call it, 3 stages of relating, and they're connected to all of these things we're talking about in different ways. And the first stage, which most of relationships go through, is you. So it's a lot about you. So when I enter a relationship, let's say, I focus so much on my partner, which is normal. You want to spend time with them. Often we overextend ourselves, or we want to impress the other one. It's all normal, part of nature, so to speak. You can see it also with animals. And the human version of that, we just give a lot. We want to do a lot. We want to impress the other one. So we focus a lot. It's a lot about you. And there's a healthy version of that. We enter a relationship, we take time to spend more time with them, go on dates, do this, do that. We're very active in making the other one happy.
Learn someone's love language, stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's all about you. There's also a shadow version of that, which is, again, going back to the Mr. Nice Guy, for example, which is you overdo, overgive, overplease, avoid conflict just so you make the peace and everything should be perfect and calm, which is not realistic. And in the first few months, that is also normal. There's a lot of hormones in the body, so we want to be close. We want to make the other one happy, which is fine. It's wonderful, and you can contribute to that. But eventually, if we keep on doing that, we will lose pieces of ourselves bit by bit, and we will, as you mentioned, become resentful. We're going to start seeing flaws in the other one eventually. Because we kind of, in the beginning, idolize, like, oh, she's perfect. Oh, he's perfect. They're this. And then you start saying, oh, I didn't know he does that. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, I don't like how he's tapping his foot. Oh, I don't know. Oh, I'm seeing now his nose is a little bit bigger than before. Or you start to see the things you don't like, which is normal. So that's what I mean by phase 1 is all about you. Phase 2, once ideally we realize we've been doing a lot, we start to focus a little bit on me. So phase one is you, phase 2 is me. So often that is it happens after sometimes 1 year or more, depends on the couple, where you want to reclaim your own self to understand, okay, who am I in this relationship? Who am I? I kind of got lost a little bit, like there was a lot about you now, like who am I in this relationship? How do I express myself? What am I holding back? Oh, I've been avoiding to say all of these things not to create a problem. Well, I want to focus now on me. I want to do more of this in my life. I want to do that. All these different versions, even up to open relating, people going even to that area because like, hey, I want to now focus on me and I want to explore with others. So there's all this variety of scenarios. Healthy version 2, unhealthy 2. Often, which means it can also turns into a little bit into narcissism, like it's all about me, and you kind of neglect the relationship. So often that is the phase where couples feel like, oh, I feel a bit unseen, unheard, unfelt. disconnected from my partner because they feel very far further and further away. The ideal, the third phase, is about us. So it's not about you, it's not about me, it's about us. It's not even about like, what do you need to be happy? It's not about what do I need to be happy. It's about what does this relationship need so love can blossom and flourish.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
It makes me think of, I think it's David Dida that put forth this question in one of his books. Is like, what does love want?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What does love want? Same in conflicts. Like in this moment, imagine you have a conflict with your partner. You're not going to be like, yeah, you did this, you did that, me, I need this. I know. You're going to be like, okay. Okay. What does this relationship, what does love need in this moment? And you start from that question.
It's such a different place to come from instead of this sort of ego hurt place where we are when we're triggered or when we, only look at a situation from our own perspective.
Yeah, it's a wonderful question to ask. Like, and it kind of this question breaks a lot of the tension and the illusion in the moments, because how are you going to answer that if you imagine you're in a conflict and you ask your partner and ask each other like, okay, what does love need in this moment? You kind of have to pause. You cannot just like blah 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 say yeah, but no, but this, but yeah, but you did this. No, you have to. You cannot respond. If you want to respond to that question, truly, you're gonna see whatever is going on. We're gonna resolve it. It's not that serious as we believe so, and there's something more at play in this moment. That we are a team. We are co-creating something together, and if you're ready, we're gonna create something really beautiful. And at the same time, that third phase does require a certain level of maturity, which I rarely see.
Do you think it's like you kind of have to have gone through these other phases always to come to this third phase, in a sense of like, I'm not saying that you completely have had to let go of them, but it's more like, in a sense, you've had to mature and go through these experiences before you're able to arrive at looking at these things, as these situations from that place of what does love want?
Well, it's to begin with, most couples don't even know there is. I mean, I'm breaking it down now a little bit so everyone can understand. But imagine now you hear this podcast and you're like, oh, okay, there's 3 phases. What do I want? Where am I at the moment? I'm in phase 1, maybe sometimes 2. Well, I would love phase 3. Okay, what do we need to do? So you kind of start to ask yourself and your partner, okay, do we actually want this? To see what, where are we going with this? And it does require certain maturity. And some people have to go through phase 1 and 2. Sometimes they go back and forward. And I'm not saying people never experience phase 3. I think for many, they experience it like in little bits and pieces here and there. But to create a full, thriving, loving relationship that operates in this way, it's rare. And the maturity is in variety of things. One is a stable, inner, regulated, healthy nervous system. Okay? This is very important. It's a language which many maybe still don't use so much, but a nervous system that can, again, respond instead of react in a moment of conflict. A nervous system that can meet challenges and not run away, or make your partner the villain. A nervous system that can receive, this is very important, to receive all the goodness that is coming your way, because for most couples and for most people, and I know this also in myself in the past, I did not know what true safety is in myself. And once it came my way, I did not know what to do with that. So most of us, and it's an ancient mechanism, most of our nervous system is a survival-based mechanism. To survive, it's built to survive.
The reptilian brain is the oldest part of the brain that sort of does that,
We can have ChatGPT and all, we can fly to space, but our nervous system is very primal. It didn't change for hundreds of thousands of years, almost at all. So that's what I mean. Most of our systems are built to survive and not thrive. We can speak about this concept of thriving. This is stage 3, but most of our nervous system is built that for many, it's easier to be in a familiar hell than unfamiliar heaven.
Yeah.
So when things are starting to get good, and this is very important, which happens in relationships, things are starting to get really, really good. And very often, boom, something happens, a conflict. Yeah, and many people don't ask themselves why. Like, we had such a nice time. Everything was going well. What happens often, the nervous system feels unsafe in stability and safety.
Because we didn't learn that when we were young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For many, not everyone, of course. Some people just had if they're lucky, they had 2 present parents who did everything really the best way they could. But most people didn't grow up in a safe inner self and an environment. So when they're in a relationship that actually is becomes stable, often a conflict will happen, which is a very interesting pattern. And it's a good moment to pause and say, like, okay, why does this happen? And there's a vocabulary around this that we call the upper ceiling, almost like you're reaching an upper ceiling of how much you can actually hold. And that includes good things.
Yeah.
That includes a stable parasympathetic nervous system, which is calm and rest. Okay, so a lot of people get triggered. A lot of conflicts actually start more often than not when things are going really well.
That's so interesting.
It's fascinating, because we get like I know this also. I was unpacking this in my own relationship with Nicole. When was it? I think 2 weeks ago. I I told her, I said something. We were getting a bit like, you feel the energy, you hear the language we're using to each other. You see, we're starting to poke each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I paused and I said, love, I have a sense that, because we also talked about this topic in the past, I brought this up. Do you notice that things are really well lately? She's like, yeah, it's going really well. I said, well, I'm noticing that we're starting to repeat a certain pattern, which I noticed in the past, which we're starting to build. The tension is building. Small things. They seem harmless, like poking a little bit here and there. But I told her, I said, please, let's take a pause. You know where this will take us if we continue. And I believe this is happening now because we are we're 7 years together now, and we reached the 3rd phase where things are going really well. Relationship-wise, we have a beautiful daughter, healthy. Business is really starting to get again better because we had a baby and we had a little pause. So things are going really well. And when things are going really well, we had this conversation. I said, we have to pay attention to these moments.
It's almost like you're trying to sort of self-sabotage your own prosperity and happiness and abundance in a sense.
Unconsciously, yes.
Unconscious, obviously, yes.
Yeah. Because most people are not used to abundance, thriving, relaxation, calm. Not used to that.
Yeah, I recognize as well, like we've been together now, actually tomorrow, it's 3 years ago we met.
Hey.
We've both had these moments where we were completely overwhelmed by how much the other would actually accept us and love us. And just sort of have this feeling of like, whoa, like it's too much. Mm-hmm. It's like, how can I want to sort of, I don't want to run away, but in the moment I recognize a part of me is like, it's as if you're learning to access more breath, more depth within yourself, more space in your lungs, more love within your heart. And it's like all of a sudden there's a new level to life, but it feels so foreign. You kind of don't really know what to do in that moment. And then, just breathing and being with it helps. But it kind of touches on a similar thing. It's so interesting that it's almost like we're afraid of the beauty of life in a sense.
Yeah, that's definitely one way to look at it. And the unfamiliar is what is scary. Whatever it is, if you think about it. It can be something that is actually like life-threatening. But it can be also the good. You're just unfamiliar for most people. So one of the responses is to recreate a conflict.
Yeah.
Something that feels familiar, whatever that is. So this was my pattern when I was a kid. There was no safety. I mean, there was in the family, but also there was also a lot of tension in the space, and so that became familiar. And I imagine a child just coming into this world, and this becomes the norm. And then I go to school, and then I'm bullied there all the time, and that becomes again a norm.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get older, and then I'm in the neighborhood where most of my friends are stealing cars, dealing drugs. Okay, that becomes familiar. And then I live in a country where there's war, and that tension becomes familiar. And at some point, and mainly because luckily, I grew up with a very curious, both parents, but especially my father. He had this magazine. It was called The Third Eye. It was like alternative, spiritual, UFO, Bigfoot, Third Eye, meditation magazine, whatever. Everything was in it.
All the cool stuff.
All the cool stuff. But I had this since birth. So he had all the editions like stacked up from here to the roof, basically.
Wow.
So even when I didn't know how to read, I remember as a child, I see the picture of Bigfoot or UFOs or like all these things. So I'm not saying this is the only reason, but this magazine and his curiosity planted a seed of curiosity in me, which made me start to explore life in a different way, which as I was growing up and all this tension around me in my environment, in my country, in my family, I was like, something is a bit off. Something, I didn't know what, but I felt something was off. Because I also started to train martial arts, started to meditate very young, and my inner world was changing, but the outer didn't look like my inner world. And something was off, especially in a highly intense environment like Serbia back then. So I was like, okay, this is not, something's off. I need to should I stay? So that's, in the end, eventually I started to travel. Eventually I moved out of the country, because my own frequency started to completely misalign with the environment. And
you were automatically drawn to somewhere else then, in that sense.
Also, and I also wanted to create an environment which is going to support my inner change.
Love that, yeah.
So I had to change the environment.
Yeah.
And then later relationships, same concept, like something was a bit off. I keep on recreating, there's constantly conflicts. Relationships failed again and again and again, with my longing to have a beautiful relationship. So that's what I mean. Like it's kind of what was unfamiliar started to slowly become familiar. And ideally, like you have in your relationship, you're like, oh my God, this is actually so nice. It's strange. But over time, you build a new muscle.
Yes.
And your nervous system starts to recognize this, like, this is what it means to be calm and loving and caring. And, it's a new muscle. So that's what I mean. It's something you can practice, as well as transmissions, how you transmit, how you live in this world, how you respond instead of react. All of these things are learnable, and they're available for everyone nowadays. So the question is, who is ready to do that, to do the work?
It's a beautiful invitation.
I hope so.
See if I can, I'd like to go maybe one layer deeper, in the sense of, in intimacy and in sex, I think that everything gets magnified even more. And it's like, it's also the most vulnerable parts of ourselves that are surfacing there. like for me, what has been a big shift in that whole space is like moving from what can I take to what can I bring. I'm curious, like, what have you maybe like seen through all the work and all the men or couples that you've guided and coached over the years? Like, what do you see are the biggest challenges in that whole space of intimacy and sex, and what are the, let's say, biggest possible transformations that people can step into? I know it's a big question, but
I'm just taking my time because I think the first thing that comes is what I invite individuals and couples into is to slow down. Really slowing down. Slowing down in how they're, again, more practically to understand, in the breath. Because a slow breath is a parasympathetic breath. So this rest and calm state. And just to note, there's nothing wrong with the sympathetic nervous system. It has its purpose and reasons when it activates. So these two work in correlation together. So, but I'm speaking specifically about slowing down, because when we slow down, we then have much more space to first feel our own body. Let's say in intimacy, let's say an intimate moment between a couple, there is then space to actually listen to the self and then listen to the other. And then again, we have a choice. How do we respond? How, like you shared, to give instead of take. So these are things that we can learn and practice with our partner and also with ourselves. For example, self-pleasure. How do we self-pleasure? And most of us, grew up in a certain way how we self-pleasure. And there's a story, for example, with men, why there's a lot of, and it's on the rise at the moment, unfortunately, premature ejaculation, or as I call it, unwanted ejaculation.
Yeah.
There's a reason why this is also happening, and it starts with how do we self-pleasure. And it's connected to also shame, because when we were young, boys were self-pleasuring in secret, in dark, in hidden, so no one can see. And often we rush that because we want to, I remember even myself, I would like to wait for the moment for my mom to fall asleep. I had my own room. And then back then it was also porn on television, like at 2 a.m. I remember only one channel had it. So I would wait for 2 a.m., to turn it on, to watch, and I would do it as quick as I can so no one can catch me.
Yes. Yeah.
So you create a specific habit in the body of rush, speeding up, because you don't want to be caught, it's shameful, and so on. So that start of self-relating in intimacy, it means we are relating with our own natural intimacy in a rushed, shameful way, which creates all sorts of physiological and mental issues later on. So when we rush ourselves, it's very hard to listen to what our partner needs. And I'm not speaking only about like unwanted ejaculation. I mean in general, are we present with our own breath? Do I hear and sense where is my partner? Is she rushing? Is she slowing down? What does she need in this moment to center herself, to feel herself? How do we move? All these intricate little details like you did in the workshop that we did with simple walking. It was not even nothing sexual or intimate, just walking together.
Yeah.
Like sensing these subtle details of knowing where my partner is. Is she 50-50, balance between the feet, or is she already back? Am I rushing this next step without even preparing her to move to the next step? So translate that into sexuality. Are we rushing her? Because I'm rushing myself. So there's so many ways how we can approach it, but the main one would, I would say, like slowing down. So you can feel and listen to yourself and track what's happening in your own body.
Yeah.
And then from there, can we track what's happening in the partner? Can we slow down together? Can we move together? Can we listen, truly deeply listen to each other, what's needed in the moment? What does love need?
Yeah. You touched on shame shortly, and I think that that's not just in intimacy, but I feel like that's probably, sort of bridging back to where we started, like this whole Mr. Nice Guy thing. There's a lot of shame wrapped up in that way of being and doing as well. And yeah, you can say like, well, the way to get over shame is to just do it, to just express it, to just communicate it. But sometimes that might be even a bridge too far. Like, what has been in your experience, a way to sort of work with the shame and learn to express everything that surrounds, that someone might have shame on?
Well, to begin with, to create a safe space where that can be expressed. I mean, this is, even in the coaching, and I see it in whether it's one-on-one or groups, just to create a safe space where an individual can express themselves and say, hey, like I feel a bit, there's a process which I love to teach, which is to track, we call it tracking, just to track what's happening in your own body. Like step one, somatically, okay, do I feel tense? And literally scanning the body from heel to the top of the head. Like, okay, where do I feel tension in my body? Now, if I would do it now, I feel it in my right foot, top of my right foot. I feel a bit of, like my jaw feels a little bit, it feels relaxed, but I notice like the bottom feels a bit heavy. I notice my partial bit, like my shoulders. So tracking somatically, and then over time, like finding or connecting certain emotions or feeling what's happening in that part of the body. And then from there, extending that to the next layer, to the next layer. So noticing what's happening in your own body, because it's data. You don't have to drown in it and like dwell, overanalyze. You just notice, like a witness, what's happening now in my body? And then from there, you have a choice. That's what I mean by response and reaction, which I've mentioned again and again. Then you have a choice to respond, like, okay, how do I want to respond to this? Do I need to change my position, sit differently? Do I need to give up my neck, like my mouth a little stretch and sound, movement, breath, sound, whatever you want to give, touch. So you kind of create a response to your body, and then imagine that extending that to your partner. And imagine then two beings who can do that can meet in that. It's completely different way of in having intimacy with someone. Completely different, like, and noticing, like, slowing down and not going towards a goal, because we have a very sexually goal-oriented society, not getting to a goal, but focusing on the present moment. That's it, your present moment, what is needed in the present moment, and responding from that place. That intimacy can last hours, endlessly, because it's like you shared before, like almost like there's more breath, there's more space for that breath, and it's like endless. It's so beautiful. And it kind of also negates a lot of the things that we learn through porn. Porn is performance based.
That's one of the things that just came up in my mind, like this sort of, you're learning to move from performing to, let's say, eliciting more freedom or inviting more freedom for yourself and your partner, in a sense. Thanks, man. I love this. Like, I've one final question. Like you expressed before, like certain patterns that are perhaps not, healthy, or what we wish for the society to go to, are on the rise in a sense. Where do you want society to go to? Like, how do you, from your experience and what you've seen and what's possible for people to alchemize and to grow towards, like, what would be your vision as how healthy relationships would look like, and then also, like, from that place, how would that look in society?
Well, I'll start with I've stopped trying to save the world many, many years ago. So in my youthful days, I had my ideas that I should do this or the world this or that. That's a nice story, but it goes back again. The only thing I can do is to change myself.
Mm.
The only work that I can do is work on myself. And that's my gift to the world. And if I'm also going to teach anything, I want to embody what I teach. I cannot speak about something if I'm not able to myself transmit. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't mean I need to be perfect at it, but it means I understand what it is and I know how to move it through my own system. So I cannot say what is the ideal of for the society, but I do know for the individual, and coming back to that union, of course I would love that everyone experiences the, as I call it, the third stage. I would love that everyone can experience that. It's magical. It's completely different. And I do believe I would imagine having let's say my daughter now. If I give her a gift of a safe family where she feels safe to express herself, to be herself, to when she feels shame, which you asked me about, that she has the space and knowing that it's okay to express her, what is she ashamed about. So just imagine growing up in that. What type of human beings, I'm curious, would grow up to be. I'm curious. And again, that's what I mean. It starts for myself. If I can work on myself, and I can come into that state of all is well, feeling safety in my own body, and ideally giving that to my daughter, and imagine now the collective, everyone doing that, there would not be a need, I believe, for wars. You know, we speak about conflicts, recreation of conflicts in relationships, which we had as kids. The micro and the micro, when we look at the world, is the same thing.
Yeah.
Two countries are just a broken couple. Israel and Palestine, just a broken couple. Both of them come from broken families, broken history. And conflict is all they know. So if we can give that to our children will be like, I don't want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to fight someone because my parents did. Why would I do that? So that's what I mean. I think that, if you want to save the world, go home and love your family.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't agree more. I also don't think we can change the world in that sense, and we shouldn't really want to try. But it will happen automatically if we all just grow as human beings. Then the outside world will slowly become a reflection of our inner states, I think.
Ideally, and this is something, maybe the last thing to say, which is it's very confronting for people, I notice, to hear that the world is a mirror of our own inner world.
Mm.
Because if we understand that, we have to take responsibility for our actions, and that means we have to change. So to say to someone, hey, the situation in the world, I'm not going to say it's your fault, but it's your responsibility. It's a mirror of it's a mirror of our families, of our neighborhoods, of our society, of our culture, of our countries. Just a mirror of where the inner world is. It's that simple, but it's extremely confronting for people to accept that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it means we all hold the key and we also hold the bat that we beat ourselves with. So
yeah, it's learning that we are the one that is like hitting us in the face instead of someone else, in a sense. Yeah
It's not a nice maybe thing to hear, but it's also very liberating.
Exactly,
very
because
liberating.
you have to go through that phase of sort of, or like that part of the perception is like, you can only, like, yes, meaning that it's your responsibility that all the, like, let's say the dark, heavy stuff that's going on, but it also means that you have the responsibility and the responsibility to change it into something else instead of standing by.
Yeah, and you cannot be a victim. This is also the very, very important thing which I'm seeing a lot, which is by knowing this, you kind of dissolve any victimhood around this, because you cannot. You take responsibility for your actions, and whatever happens is your responsibility. So you dismantle any victimhood around this.
Mm-hmm.
And today we have society which is a lot of victimhood is happening, and I don't like to see that. And again, I'm just calling for responsibility back again. I feel this is one of the key elements to live a truly free life everyone actually deeply wants to live. So
yeah, maybe one thing that comes up that's sort of tied to this is this this let's say this integration of dark masculine, which often gets interpreted as maybe like, you know, violent or power hungry or anything like that, but that would be, I guess, the unhealthy version of that. But there's also a healthy version of that, which then actually means standing up, calling out tyranny, all this kind of stuff. Just going back to, let's say, me, or what can I do? Because I feel like we, in a deep way, men, we have a desire to embody that dark masculine in a sense. Like there is this part of us that wants to fight for what's good, that, you know, even wants to sacrifice themselves in a sense, and all the stuff that's sort of tied to that. Like, but it seems like a lot of that is missing in society. Not to point the finger at society, like going back to ourselves, how can we move to integrate more of that in a healthy sense in ourselves?
How much time we have for this? This is a big topic.
I don't know. Let's see where we go.
But let's say just quick explanation, because maybe some people heard first time the terminology of the dark masculine. This comes from a system called the cross, which I work with. It's a system of 4 quadrants in a circle divided to light masculine, light feminine, dark masculine, dark feminine. They're all part of all of us. So we all carry these 4 archetypes, because Jung usually works with 12 archetypes, more or less. There's many, of course, more known ones. This is kind of like a summary of all of them, and they're divided in the masculine and the feminine, and light and dark. Light can be translated as consciousness, as spirit. You can use any terminology you want. The dark is translated, another wording is matter, the flesh, anything that is in concrete in the material world.
Right.
So the union of all 4 is what we may call as wholeness. Okay, the union of all 4, which means whenever we disconnect or deny, suppress any of these 4, we go usually into the shadow of that one. Let's say if we deny our strength as men, well, women too, the power, the strength, the unapologetic expression, when we deny these aspects of the dark, let's go say the dark masculine, we go into the shadow often in the dark. So, and that means in our society, as we see throughout history, the dark masculine, also the dark feminine, but dark masculine has been demonized and suppressed the most in the last, I would say, 100 years amongst men, because historically that energy has been abused. Okay, it went into the shadow. The shadow is the tyrant, the abuser, the killer, the rapist. These are all aspects of the shadow of that element. The integrated version is the one who wants to protect,
right?
Who wants to contribute, who wants to build bridges instead of destroying them. But that energy, because it's so dense, it's so physical, it's so physical in our society, in our world, because of its history also of abuse. Nowadays, men are suppressing, denying also shaming that energy in themselves. Hence, full circle again, the Mr. Nice Guy, one of the elements, because he even considers that energy as bad. He thinks like, no, that's wrong, because that energy did the same to these people and this woman, so on. But it's not the energy, it's the how you use this energy. And I always use the analogy of a sword. If you have a sword in your hands, like let's say in the sheet, you have a sword, and I always say to men, you all have a sword. You cannot not have the sword. And the sword is super sharp. It's there. You can pretend it's not there. You can just look the other way and just like pretend you're like, but it's there. And eventually, because it's there, it's going to cut someone, you or someone else, because you don't know how to use it. You don't know how to wield it. So you can deny your strength and your power in this world, but eventually it's going to bounce back. It's going to hurt you and others. That's the responsibility piece we've been talking about a lot.
Yeah. So it's really about becoming aware of those parts within ourselves and then learning to wield them in a healthy way, to give them expression in a sense of, instead of denying them, which eventually will always come out sideways.
But like we have to.
Yeah.
Because if we don't, we see now what's happening around the world. Palestine, Israel, Ukraine, Russia, this and that, Iran, this. It's like, it's a sword people are abusing in their usage, or they don't know how to use it. So it has to come out. It's chaos. That's also the shadow of the dark, which is chaos. There's no control. There's no awareness. There's no consciousness. Mm-hmm. So it spirals down into chaos. And this is, for me, one of my missions, to bring more awareness to this and to kind of reclaim that energy in our society, which historically we always had. We always had it. And
how do you see that we go about doing that reclaiming?
Well, to begin with, even now what we're doing in the podcast, we're talking about it too. So it's like a reminder, hey, gentlemen and ladies, you have power. You hold power within. And we see it, let's say, even the last 5 years, without going too far into it, we've seen what the governments around the world have done when we give them too much power.
Yeah.
We've seen it, and we see it again now. We kind of disown our own sense of self and discernment, and I'm just going to follow blindly someone else telling me what to do with my own body and the environment. And I'm not going to question anything. That's being powerless. That's forgetting you have a sword in your sheath and that you can, if someone is telling me what to do, I'm going to cut you. Like, don't do that. So this is what happens. We have a society at the moment, unfortunately, where people are feeling powerless. Mm-hmm. And they follow, unfortunately, then people who know that. And it's very easy to manipulate and control people. Hence the wars, because if the society is conscious and aware, they would not go into war.
No, even if the so-called leaders would do it, then if no one is listening to the army, then nothing will happen.
Yeah. It's like you say, no, I'm not going. I was the only one in my class, in my school, who didn't go to serve the army. The only one. Because I was getting blue letters every few months to my home to go, I don't know how it works in the Netherlands, in Serbia back then, in elementary school. You finish elementary school, you go to the first exam, like a medical exam, and they tell you which area of the army you're going to be assigned to once you go to the army after high school, when you're 18 or whatever.
Wow, so this is years before?
Yeah, years. Wow. You go to examinations and you go like certain checkups. I never went to the first one. I remember my whole class went, I'm like, I'm not going to go. So I'm saying this power, I had a no. I was like, no, dot. Yeah, but if you don't go, they're going to come to your door. Even letters, I got letters, military, telling me, we're going to come and arrest you if you don't come to us. I was like, come? I never went to any military section. I never applied for anything. They never came to my door, which is very interesting also.
if maybe like because it's so clear for you, you just don't allow it in your reality.
No.
In a sense.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I will not pick up a weapon. Of course, I understand there's a service, perhaps to protect, because my country eventually was in a war. I was also 16, the Second World War, when it happens, when I was living in a bomb shelter for 3 months, but I couldn't do much. But the point is, I will not comply and be part of something I do not stand for, which is to believe that someone else is the enemy. I do not stand for that. And I will not serve 1 year of my life. We had military back in the times of my grandfather and my father. I think it was 3 years. In my time, it was 1 year. 1 year to go into the military and do what?
Harm other humans.
Well,
likely.
Yeah, like schools. Like, you shape a human being into something they're not. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. So whatever, that's why I say I'm very grateful for this, whether it's this magazine or whether it's something else, that it instilled in me a no. And I'm not compromising that. Same with my work. If I stand for something, I will stand, even if I have to stand alone in front of every single human on this being. I'm not going to budge. It's a no. Same happened, I will mention it very easily, during COVID. I was a no. Come to my door, kick me out of the country. I don't care. Yeah. I was a no. I'm not going to take something into my body which I'm a no to, it's not a compromise. And this is what I'm saying. Imagine a nation of people like that who know their yes and know their no. They have a choice. I don't think this is going to doesn't make sense for me to think that there will be so much conflict today in the world.
No, I agree. I fully agree. I think, yeah, if we are all more in contact with our hearts and our sense of self, it can only result in more beauty and more integrated relations and more and peace in a sense.
Yeah, and even when we have a conflict, to take it as an opportunity to connect. So tension is connection wanting to happen. And to see it as that. So if we have a conflict, whether it's you and me or a nation, it's like, okay, this is an opportunity.
Yeah, right. If you're not bothered, you'll just walk away. But because there's tension, it's like something's there waiting to be unlocked in a sense.
Something is there. That's what I mean, kind of full circle to close these relationships. Seeing tension as an opportunity to see or to heal or to reconnect to a deeper layer, a deeper way. So if you and me have a conflict, I'm ready to talk to you and meet you in that conflict. I said, I'm not going to punch you in the face because I don't like what you said. So that's what I mean. Just knowing all these things, all these tools and all this awareness around like what can we do actually beyond what we know at the moment, which is not working. It's not.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let's close it there, man. Thanks so much for sharing your experience and your wisdom. And please let everyone know where they can find you, what's coming up for you, anything else you'd like to share.
It's Nemanja Sonero everywhere, basically, social media, which is NEMANJASONERO. Instagram, Facebook, website, nemajasonero.com. Instagram, same. Facebook, same. And
I'm linking it all in the description as well. Yeah,
even better. What's coming? Well, multiple things. I'm starting I work with one beautiful lady. Her name is Summer Brown. So we're creating more and more events, which are, for example, I organize events for men. So I have my mastermind starting in October. It's a masculine alchemy mastermind. It's online. It's a 6-month journey where we work exactly on these topics we just talked about. Mm-hmm. From basic tools to understand yourself to then how to navigate all these things within ourselves and then how to direct this in the world, into our purpose, into our families, how to wield the sword and to create something good. And it's beautiful when we do it in a container of men because then we keep each other accountable. Iron sharpens iron. So we are supporting each other in that journey. And while Summer at the same time has an online mastermind for women, and then we're going to have some meetings online. And then I also organize events with Summer in person. So we're going to have a bigger retreat next year. So this is exciting, which addresses also men and women and couples, because eventually we want to bring this to the couplehood, not just, hey, men's work and we just work with men and then okay, now let's bring this to the world. So that's happening. And also with my brother Kane and Jenna, they are from New Zealand, they're Maoris. We're creating events with Haka mixed with men's work and women's work, which is super exciting.
Yeah, really cool. I attended one 1.5 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, but now we're going to also we brought in a female facilitator. So women are also welcomed. And we're going to, again, the same topic, how to create this union. Because this third stage is not only for relationships, intimate relationships, also for friendships. It's also how can we create stage 3 in my business, in the world. So how can we live from that stage 3, that all is well, and knowing there's abundance of everything available for everyone. That's our long-term mission. And I also coach one-on-one online. I have a lot of one-on-one clients, which I enjoy a lot, couples. And in Amsterdam, I work with the Gathering of Men, which you're very familiar with.
Of course.
And so a lot of interesting things are happening, but all the data you can find on my social media and my website, and I'm quite active there.
Amazing, man. I enjoyed this a lot. And to everyone watching, listening, I hope that this inspired you to find more freedom and balance within yourself and your relationship. And thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you again next week.
Thank you.